we had lost 5,000 YouTube subscribers compared to where we were last night. So I started texting, and I texted Brian Tyler Cohen. I texted Jesse Dollemore. I texted Luke Beasley and Farron Cousins and Sam Cedar. Every single one of our channels since last night is hemorrhaging subscribers. It is not just YouTube subscribers. We are seeing record cancellations of paid memberships, record cancellations. So saying I'm voting for Trump because of high gas prices when gas prices are low, you are simply clueless, and Trump benefits from the clueless vote.
So you Trump supporters are misinformed, essentially dumb. I see why he's losing a lot of subscribers and members.
The Democratic Party needs to eject all of these far leftist people completely from orbit. There should be absolutely zero collaboration between the DNC and any of these far left people. The problem is that these people don't support the party. They have no interest in securing any political power, and they are toxic to associate with. There is literally no reason why people like AOC or anybody else should be playing games with people like Hassan, or why people should be going on shows to have friendly chats with Brianna Joy Gray, because these people will not support the presidential candidate for the Democratic side at the end of the day. It doesn't make any sense for them to give any resources or support to any of these people. Let them like hang out on their own, because on the Republican side, every single person on the quote unquote centrist and on Republican side, all of those people supported Trump. Every single one, lockstep. And it's way better.
I grew up in the 90s. We weren't as obsessed with dividing ourselves into these little groups based on our skin color or our gender. If the Republicans declare one thing, well, Democrats, by definition, must declare the opposite. I don't think that's the right way to look at any issue.
This is the problem with Democrats. You can be weird or you can be pretentious, but you can't be both. And Democrats are weird and pretentious. Right? If you disagree with Democrat rhetoric, some of it, not all of it, the reaction is, what are you, a Nazi? What are you, hateful? What are you, a bigot? When you have some things that aren't really common sense, Latinx, when you have some things that are just...
They sacrificed it all at the altar of identity.
But why aren't you listening to Latinos? Latinos were the main people saying don't use Latinx.
Because they don't care.
You even keep saying Latinx. I never even heard that term.
I know. It's just the whole thing. Like, for example, remember when there was like these stories of like the drag queens teaching kids how to read?
Yes.
And if a dad or mom goes, why are there drag queens teaching kids how to read?
Don't call me homophobic.
Thank
transphobic.
You.
Yo, that shit.
Explain that shit. It's weird. It's not like we ain't all go to kindergarten.
And maybe this makes me pretentious. Maybe it makes me elitist.
You don't think it what?
Impacts people's lives in a real way.
But it impacted the election?
It doesn't.
May I finish?
Yeah.
You just double down. This is the pretentiousness that is so baked into Democratic politics that drives people crazy. I'm telling you, hey, I don't understand this and it makes me feel a little uncomfortable. And you're going, no one really cares about this. This is not a big deal.
And because I'm asking questions?
And the second you do that to the majority of the country, which is what you're doing, they start going, man, fuck these guys. Let's Trump fix this whole shit. These motherfuckers went too far. I can't even ask a question. When I do, they act like I'm stupid.
Yeah, I got bad news for you. They don't have a monopoly on stupid. You wear Queers for Palestine t-shirts and masks 2 years after the pandemic ended. And you can't define woman, I mean person who menstruates. You're the teachers union education party and you've turned schools and colleges into a joke. You just lost a crazy contest to an actual crazy person. What a shocker that the people who see everything through the lens of race and sex see their election loss as a result of racism and sexism. Yes, if only we weren't so irredeemably unenlightened, we would have elected a black president by now. Oh, what, we did? Oh, right, and then re-elected him. Maybe you missed it because it wasn't on TikTok. But a poll last year asked, if America is the greatest country in the world, more blacks and Hispanic Americans agreed with that than the white progressives. It asked if racism is built into our society. White progressives agreed with that at higher levels than black and Hispanic people. And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them. Black people, they're just like us.
Kid Rock, Dana White, Elon Musk, Donald Trump going out to meet Joe Rogan. Oh my fucking God. Oh my fucking god.
Kick to the body, followed by the Trump dance.
Jesus.
What is going on YouTube? 0088 here. Look, I don't give a crap about politics. At the end of the day, politicians are liars. They're out for themselves, in my opinion. And yes, that includes Donald Trump. They're out to bolster their careers and they're out for their own party. Seems like everyone except for far left wingers and some center left people's hero is Donald Trump right now, and I think he's a big liar as well. But here's the thing though, Trump won. And at the end of the day, that might be good for anyone that loves and cares about entertainment, and I'll tell you why in a minute. When it comes to politics within entertainment and media, that's what I like to talk about, that's what I care about, and I've been talking about it on this channel for a long time now. One of my first videos I ever made, which got quite a few views for my channel, was called Diversity and Race Swapping in Television and Media. It sparked from talks of turning Peter Parker black, and as a big, huge Marvel fan, as the MCU was just popping off and becoming one of the most accurate adaptations of a fictional universe being brought to life on screen, and then you're going to just mess it up by changing one of the most titular characters into something that he's not, and that pissed me off. So back in 2015 I made a video about it, and that was like the beginning of my journey into the anti-woke, anti-SJW crap. But I saw this way before that. My first brush with this crap was back in Iron Man 3, when Shane Black decided that the Mandarin had to be an idiot. So then the real Mandarin, that was actually the evil main villain, was a white guy, because they were too scared to depict anyone other than white as a villain. That was definitely overcompensating for something that didn't even need to be there. The Mandarin, the way he was portrayed by Ben Kingsley, was chilling, scary, almost like a grounded take on the crazy character that we saw in the comic, but that wasn't enough, and they had to make the white guy the villain because they were afraid to make anyone other than white a villain in the world where the Iron Man story is highly political, and you don't want to depict our political enemies as brown. And eventually that led to Iron Man 3, the second half of the movie, being absolute trash and not making any sense, and completely stripping it of any potential it had of being something that could have been a lot more gripping, a lot more darker, a lot more entertaining, a lot more true to the comics and the source material if you care about that stuff, and I care about that stuff. That was like the catalyst for me when it comes to television and movies.
You'll never see me coming. I wouldn't go in there for 20 minutes.
When it comes to video games, it was Anita Sarkeesian and her feminist frequency videos, which inevitably led to Gamergate, where a whole bunch of fans stood up and said, look, we're not taking this shit anymore. You gaming journalists are defending the likes of Anita Sarkeesians and Zoe Quinns, who were just people trying to use their gender and their identity to come in within the game industry and change it up from the way we've liked it since the beginning of the game industry way back in the 80s. We've liked it this way. No one ever complained about it until these two women came out, and then the journalists blew up and started calling anybody that was against this Nazis, racists, self-haters, and it just turned into this huge culture war within gaming that is still going on today, which some people are calling Gamergate 2, where these developers are creating video games without the art, without the passion, without the talent, but instead they're injecting these video games with political agendas, ideology, identity politics, and it's just Western entertainment in general. Over in Japan, over in the East, in Korea, they're still making amazing television, they're still making amazing movies, they're making amazing video games, but it is trying to seep into Japan a little bit. Now, back to the Anita Sarkeesian situation, it was crazy because we had this before. I mean, since the beginning of time, human beings have had politics interwoven with things that maybe or maybe not influence that thing to not be as great as it could be. You've had the soccer moms of like the 90s complaining about too much violence in cartoons, too much violence in TV. They had to get the Comics Code Authority to make sure there's no swear words or too much nudity or anything sexy in comics back then. There's always been this moral grandstanding in entertainment, but we always knew that the artists and the developers and the creators behind it always tried to find a way around it to still give us great quality entertainment. And it was the government and the powers that be that was controlling all of this kind of stuff back then. And now with Trump in power, it's actually the government that's trying to make it less woke, well, as it seems anyway. At the end of the day, it was the conservatives back then that was saying all of this is immoral and all of this is bad for our children, the violence in the video games. And that brings me to Jack Thompson. Jack Thompson was the man who said Grand Theft Auto was too violent for kids to be playing and it would encourage violence as well.
It's the fact that there's graphic sex in this game, the distribution of it to minors, which is occurring, is a criminal act. This is the company that said they didn't put the Hot Poppy sex mod in Grand Theft Auto. 3 layers of fraud going on here.
Creative expression is protected.
Children are a protected class in this country.
And it's the responsibility of parents to know how their kids spend their time.
There is a direct causal link between these games and teen violence.
And everybody laughed at him. The developers, the journalists, people even in the news were just saying, get out of here, Jack Thompson, we don't need your bullshit. Everything you're saying is rubbish. And Rockstar even went out of their way to create a version of him in their game to make fun of him. This is exactly what they should have done with Anita Sarkeesian when she started talking her bullshit. As soon as she started talking her crap about sexism in video games, how the damsel in distress, Peach needs to be saved by Mario, as if that's some big issue, as if that's the reason we play Mario is to look down on women or something like that, as if that's what Japan's trying to do, as if Batman walking like a man and Catwoman walking like a woman is some kind of bad thing for women to be feminine, women suddenly have to be masculine. All of these things should have been thrown out the same way we threw out Jack Thompson's bullshit. But no. This wasn't about violence in video games. This was about sexism in video games. This was about misogyny in video games. And all of a sudden that was different. And we were like, wait, what's going on here? The journalists, the devs, all the people that were on our side against Jack Thompson back in the early 2000s are on Anita's side. They're all combined together to go against the gamers now. Why? Well, that's a story for another video. I'd like to call it gynocentrism. I don't know if I said that right. Look it up. It's one of those scary words that make women sound bad, and like misandry that most people don't know about. Look that word up, what gynocentrism is. Maybe you could say it's the opposite of the patriarchy or something. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I think it's something to do with that. This inherent primal instinct to protect women. Jack Thompson didn't have that, but Anita Sarkeesian had access to that, and everybody just were taking what she was saying seriously. It created a massive domino effect, slippery slope that ended up taking us into the world we are in now with gaming and also with television and media. So all of this happens in the early 2010s. You start noticing it in video games. You start noticing all this woke stuff. It started with The Last of Us when it was coming in, even the first game where in the DLC they pretty much retroactively made Ellie gay, which isn't a massive problem, but it was definitely more for a representation kind of thing, like, oh, why can't she be gay? She's probably originally meant to be straight. Let's not even talk about The Last of Us 2. We all know what happened there. Clearing off the male strong protagonist and replacing it with a literally physically strong female protagonist that kills off the male protagonist in a not so subtle way of showing how they want women to replace the men in these stories, you know? That's just The Last of Us, but we're getting ahead of ourselves now. So Trump wins in 2016. He beats Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, so, you know, the Dems are still feeling themselves. The Liberals and the Dems are still feeling like, wait, we got shafted by the Electoral College here, so we're going to double down our shit. Fuck Donald Trump, fuck the right wing, fuck anything that's not identity politics. So they doubled down. All of a sudden, the trans issue became a huge thing. Gender dysphoria didn't matter anymore. You could be anything you wanted to be just because you said you were that thing. The culture war was getting heated at this point. Now, keep in mind, this is all happening on the internet. The normies weren't even involved yet. Because of that doubling down on the internet, somehow it's bled into the hiring practices in Disney, in Hollywood, in the games industry. All of a sudden, we started seeing modern day messaging and politically driven entertainment. What makes it worse is the fact that because they still kind of wanted to make money, they were taking IPs we know and love and injecting this modern woke political crap into the IPs where it doesn't belong, where it doesn't fit. This was the doubling down when Trump won in 2016 of what entertainment looked like. It was subtle here and there, but it was coming in more and more to the point where you have Captain Marvel was in between two of the biggest movies between 2018 and 2019. In the 90s, in the early 2000s, that movie would have been the Adam Warlock movie. If you know the MCU, if you know the lore, you would understand why that movie would be an Adam Warlock movie rather than a Captain Marvel movie. but we had to have the female character there. Marvel had to compete with DC with Wonder Woman, so they had to have Captain Marvel in there. All political games taken away from the narrative, the story that would have made the MCU stronger. And all of this was just happening because Trump won, doubling down. The Democrats, liberals, doubling down. Whether they knew it or they didn't know, whether it was subconscious or conscious, they were doing this shit. Then let's go into 2020 when COVID hit. We had the BLM riots, George Floyd's death, and then almost like a retaliation, we had January 6th. It was just mental. The Black Lives Matter riots, there was flipping people like protesting about that in England and other countries. All this crazy stuff was going on. There was open and encouraged discrimination online and on TV about white men and how white men are bad, white men are this, we don't need them. And all of this has led to Donald Trump's victory in 2024. But it also led to this huge movement online of people saying no, people fighting back. Because Gamergate, I don't think it ever really ended. Gamergate has been going on all this time. And it's not Gamergate 2, it's just Gamergate ongoing. You have people like Endymion, you have people like Asmongold, you have people like The Critical Drinker when it comes to movies and television, Nerdrotic, all these huge YouTubers who people on the left will call grifters because they're saying things they don't agree with and they're winning. So you got to call it grifting, which doesn't make any sense because in order for you to grift, you have to have the general public's ear. So there's a reason why they have their viewers and the general public's ear, but they're left with people that want to dissect that. So you got people like Saladino, you got people like Kyle, you got people like It's a Gundam, you got people Hill versus Bayface, all these people online since around the time The Force Awakens dropped, all started kind of slowly coming out as these huge YouTubers talking against this woke stuff, against this SAW crap, how it's been ruining entertainment and how most of the fans were just agreeing with them. Because believe you me, if this shit was popular, nobody would be listening to these people. There would be the Nazis in the bottom of the barrel, in their 4chans or in their dark web, internet dark web. That's where they would be festering and not growing because no one will be caring about this. But people cared about this. People were listening to this. People were saying, this is clicking, this is making sense to me. The normies were starting to wake up to this shit. The normies going to work every day. People working in hospitals, people working in offices. All of a sudden, they were getting called to HR for just random crap. Sexism claims because you made a joke. The Me Too movement, people in hospitals filling out forms with more than 2 genders on them, people coming into the hospital and saying they're a person that's pregnant and then they're asking, what gender are you? All this stuff leaked from the internet and started leaking into the general public. And I feel like the normies became aware of this shit, you know? The Latinx stuff, the recent thing Obama telling black men that they're sexist and they hate themselves if they don't vote for Kamala. All these kinds of things just added up over time since 2016 and maybe even a bit earlier. You know, you've got the red pill manosphere talking about how society is inherently woman focused, which trickles down again into entertainment. Women-focused entertainment, women-focused video games, women-focused movies, television. But the thing is, it's women-focused, but women-focused in the wrong way because they don't even know how to focus on women properly. Only 2 movies have really done it really well so far in this new age of woke, and that is Wicked and Barbie. Those 2 films or pieces of entertainment, popular media that actually targeted women properly. Otherwise, you have things like Captain Marvel, The Acolyte, Rey in Star Wars, Last Jedi, The Last of Us. All of these things were supposed to help bring more women in, but all it did was just piss off the men that are already fans of this stuff. Again, I'm gonna use that word gynocentric. We're in a kind of gynocentric society, and I think all of this stuff was just kind of waking the normies up to vote for Trump, basically. And then we had people like Joe Rogan, who became alternative media. You can't have a Joe Rogan on mainstream media. I mean, what? You got Stephen Colbert, you got Trevor Noah, Jimmy Kimmel, you got Jimmy Fallon. Those are men, but they're basically women in men's clothing. They're basically women in men's skin. They don't really talk to the average guy out there because nothing in the mainstream media is targeted to the average guy anymore. The last thing we had in the mainstream media that was targeted to the average guy that was entertainment was probably Entourage on TV. Entourage was one of my favorite TV shows. Top 5 favorite TV shows ever. It started, I believe, in 2004. The show finished in 2011 and they came back for a movie in 2015. Now, people loved Entourage. It was fun. People that I know that are liberal loved that show. People say it got bad after season 4, but that was more of a quality issue rather than it's too misogynistic issue. Though I'm sure there were some people saying that. But then came 2015 and the movie came out. My God. Suddenly we had all these reviewers, mainstream people, Mark Commody and all these kinds of people talking about this movie, had honest trailers talking about the film, and they couldn't help but call it misogynist.
Feel contempt for it. You said to Jeremy Piven, you said, you know, is it fair to say that this is how the women are portrayed? And he said, well, yeah, you know, what you have to understand is it's a male fantasy. Well, firstly, that's not an excuse. And secondly, that this idea that there is such a thing as a male fantasy, which is everybody wants to be part of that, I just totally reject. So saying it's a male fantasy is not an excuse for it. And I think it was very interesting that in response to that question, what he did was actually talked about Ari's relationship with his wife. Because other than that, this is absolutely the most loathsome, consumerist male dream.
They call it dude bro, they called it men that refuse to grow up. This is the last real manly thing that men enjoy was taken from us. Women weren't just complaining about it, this was men complaining about it on behalf of women. Almost like in order for us to get laid, we have to talk about anything that's manly or that men would enjoy, we have to talk about it like it's trash. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was even before Trump came into power, and it was just like, this stuff was cool before. And now all of a sudden, all of this is misogynistic, it's sexist, it's childish. Basically, we're not allowed to have fun as men anymore. The idea of Entourage is the Hollywood lifestyle, guys hanging out, being friends, getting laid, getting drunk, having parties, having a good time, just enjoying life. You know, and it's also about brotherhood and loyalty and friendship and all this kind of stuff. But because it was a little bit risque, it was a little bit rough around the edges like most things were pre-2014, people just kind of just calling it misogynist. Another example of anything that's for men or fun for men wasn't allowed no longer. Everything has been female focused times 20, times 1 million, especially after once Trump came into power because they felt they need to double down. Now, Trump winning in 2016 is very different than Trump winning in 2024 because we've lived through all of that shit. The normies have ironically woken up. They've woken up from this shit. Or maybe they've gone back to sleep for the American dream. Maybe we'll say that because woke is now bad. Being awoke and awake and aware is bad. So we'll say they've gone back to sleep for the American dream. Trump wins in 2024, and all of a sudden people like AOC is taking her pronouns out of her bio. We got Destiny scrambling, trying to figure out what the fuck happened. Why did Trump win? We need to get rid of all these leftists that are in the Democratic Party because they're bringing us down. We got Disney letting Ryan Reynolds make Deadpool 3 with Hugh Jackman, bringing Wolverine back. They're making fun of woke stuff. We got allegedly information from Nerdrock, I don't know how true this is. We got allegedly that Kevin Feige is saying that he's done his part for woke Marvel and that we need to get back to making good movies, like he's done what he can do for representation and diversity and all that kind of crap. They've brought back the Russo brothers for the next big Avengers movie. They've brought back Robert Downey Jr., though I don't know why the fuck he's playing Doom. I don't know, that's got to be a trick or something going on there, but that's for another video. But anyway, they went back to the drawing board on this shit. We've got developers within video games like Warhammer 40,000, Space Marine 2. The developer came out and said, look, I just want to make a game that's really cool. I don't want to inject any identity politics or anything like that into it. I just want to make a really fun, cool game. Still, it's been consistent from the East. We've got anime. Maybe the company executive heads were seeing that, Jesus, anime is still making money. Video games coming from the East, Wukong, Stellar Blade, Final Fantasy, all these games from the East are still making money. Manga, still making money. Comic books is dead, basically, at this point. Korean television, Squid Game, all the Korean shows on Netflix still killing it. So I could see there was definitely a shift. Even before Trump won in November 5th, there was definitely a shift from spring of 2024 that slowly but surely entertainment seems to be shifting. Of course, it's going to take some time to rectify all the go woke, go broke stuff that they made in the last 10 or so years. Basically, long story short, is we're winning the culture war, it seems like. And I'm thinking Trump winning is exactly what liberals needed. True liberals, true center-left, classical liberals, Democrats even needed Trump to win in order to be a solid wake-up call so we can go back to sleep and have the American dream. Yeah, it's a shame that woke is such a bad word now, because being awake is such a true statement for this, ironically. This is the real woke, you know, to understand how all of this stuff has just been trashed by all this postmodernist political ideology crap. But it seems like that's really dying now It seems like they're focused on making entertainment for the demographics that they're targeting, not just trying to please everybody and failing. You know, we got Wicked, we had the Barbie movie, that was for women, and they actually made it for women, not just taking something that's for men and trying to make the women behave like men, and then it appeals to nobody. Can we get some man stuff now? We have to wait and see for that one. So who knows? We've got Disney replacing She-Hulk with Deadpool on their homepage on Disney Plus. I mean, what does that tell you? A white man replacing a woman? A green woman? I mean, who knows? Deadpool's more popular. Maybe they've decided to remove the identity politics, and that is what Kevin Feige allegedly said, according to Nerdrotic. So who knows? That's all. I just wanted to get that off my chest. That's my videos about how we needed Trump's win. Maybe they will make entertainment great again. Literally, for all of us. No more identity politics and postmodernism injected into every single thing, and things will actually make sense now, hopefully. I never realized how important it was that he won, at least in terms of entertainment, in terms of how we speak to each other. Like, politically, it could be very bad. We've got the Trump tariffs. I don't know what all of that could mean. We've got how much things are going to cost, what's going to do for the taxes, the economy, and all that kind of stuff. I don't know how that's going to work out. I mean, I know abortion isn't a real massive problem because he's left that to the States, even though everyone's making that the biggest deal in the world. But socially, Trump winning is what we need. Whether you like Trump's policies or not don't matter. At the very least, Trump winning the way he did at such a landslide, getting the Supreme Court, getting the Senate, getting House, get everything, what that's done, it's awoken the Democrats from their wokeness, if that makes any sense. And it's made them hopefully able to look internally and at least try and study what they did wrong. If they want to come back and have any say in the political landscape anymore, they have to look at themselves and figure the shit out. Now, I know a lot of them are struggling. They're already saying they need their own Joe Rogan. They're saying that more than half of America are idiots for voting for Trump. They're in their 5 stages of grief, and eventually they'll hit the stage of acceptance after they've been in their denial and their anger and their bargaining. Once they get to acceptance, I'm sure Democrats will look inwardly and hopefully they'll fix themselves, so then the political landscape can look a little bit more like the early 2000s again. So then I can get back to my gaming, I can get back to my entertainment and enjoying it for what it is, rather than being preached to, rather than being told what I have to think. They're going to start asking me what I think again. They're going to start trying to make me feel again with the entertainment and art, rather than telling me what I should be thinking without any subtlety, any tact, or any talent. But anyway, that's my video on why I think the Liberals needed Trump to win. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Am I wrong on this? Am I right? Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notifications, and I'll see you again soon. Peace.